Sometimes when you walk along this busy and noisy Moscow street and see this building of concrete and glass, you may think it's not possible to find old Moscow anymore. But this is not true. Atlantis of old Moscow hasn't sank completely. There are still many islands remains, large or small, but always beautiful and homely. And I promise you will find them. Today we keep on walking around the Taganka Hill. So let's get started from the Taganskaya metro station, exit number 1, then turn to Goncharnaya Street. So keep on walking to the end of the street, to the famous skyscraper, and then turn to the Rumen-side street and go back by the parallel Radishevskaya Street. So no medieval buildings today. Our objects are houses number 38 and 26 on Goncharnaya Street, and the skyscraper itself, and by the end one more interesting object. Taganka is an ancient place, but when we are here, it's not possible not to talk about what we call Stalin's architecture, so the architecture of Stalin's time. And here in Goncharnaya Street, we can see 3 phases of Stalin's architecture. The first one is just behind me. It was built in 1930s, the darkest time of Stalin's era. And you know, it's better to come to see this building in the evening or in the night, then it's dark around and it's lightened. So this arch is like a portal somewhere you maybe not want to go. Let's immerse a bit in the details of the building. Can you see these huge Corinthian columns? Can you see the windows? Consider the decoration, it's perfect Greek or ancient Roman style. Can you see the two statues over there? One is a man of hand labor, and one is a man of intellectual labor. And also this arch just behind me isn't a proper triumphal arch. So what we can see now is a proper Stalin's Hellenistic style. Here goes the second phase of the Stalin's architecture. The architecture, as you can see, is entirely different. Almost no ancient Greek and Roman architecture anymore. No Corinthian columns. But I think it's not the most important thing. The impression is entirely different. Look how bright it is compared to the previous building. Sometimes this style is called Triumph. The building was erected just after the war, and many of the generals and marshals of the war were living here. In fact, this is something more like a luxury apartment building of the early 20th century. The Taganka Hill, one of the 7 or many more Moscow hills. Some people say that Moscow might emerge here. This might be a legend, but what is true is that the church at the Arthur's courtyard was built simultaneously with the Assumption Cathedral and the Kremlin. Can you see these 2 relatively small but nice houses just behind me, on the left and on the right? Imagine that at some time all the hill was covered with such small and nice houses of old Moscow. But then most of them were demolished. So here it is, one of the 7 sisters, one of the 7 skyscrapers established in just one day in September 1947 to celebrate 800 years of Moscow. To what style we can assign this building? If you have seen Gothic buildings before, you can notice pinnacles and arc-boutains on the top of the building. But let's give a look and turn to these oval windows with plants and vegetable ornament around it. This is the traits of Baroque. Of course,
There is no Stalin's architecture without Roman and Greek elements. And finally, some people say there are elements of Art Deco. And who was living inside the building? Actors, film directors, theater directors, dancers, famous writers, and so on and so on. So this is not an everyday building, and there were no everyday people living in it. And can you imagine that the skyscraper we just seen and this modest late Soviet library building were planned by just the same architect, Dmitry Chichulin? No, but more of this. The home of Russian government, the White House, was also erected by him. And one more place we just cannot miss. This is something Russian rulers are famous for, a bunker. This is, in this particular case, a Stalin's bunker of the time of the Second World War, 65 meters underground. It's the height of a 20-floor building.